Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show. And welcome to my show on my 10 favorite songs from 1995. This is a show that I like to put out as a companion to the show I do as part of a panel on Grant's Rock Warehouse, where every month we talk about our 10 favorite songs from a particular year. And of course, we go chronologically. Since the panels have been getting larger and larger, I don't have as much time to talk about these songs and or my honorables for that matter. So what I do is I record this show, and then after we do our show on Grant's channel, I put this show out. So the show on Grant's Rock Warehouse, where a panel of at least six of us will be talking about our 10 favorite songs from 1995, will have aired on Monday, October 13 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that would have been airing live. I will put this out right after that. I'm filming this the day before. So, 1995, I still loved a lot of the music that was coming out on the radio back then. I was really, really hungry for what was coming out. It was a really, really exciting time for me. And I know I'm going overboard on a really, really, but I love 1995. A lot of great things were happening for me in 1995. I'm going to go over my 10 favorite songs from this year, a little more in depth than I would with Grant. And I'll give you 20 honorable mentions as well. So let's get started. My number 10 is a band where I loved everything they did in the 90s, and I got into them on their, I believe, their third album, Sailing the Seas of Cheese. This would be album number 5 for Primus from Tales from the Punch Bowl. Song I'm going with is Southbound Pachyderm with that memorable bass line, which comes in at very inopportune times and sometimes gets very repetitive. Is a very haunting and spooky song where Les Claypool is practically whispering the vocals and eventually starts screaming near the end. But this is a song that's all about atmosphere and mood. It's very, very cool. Little different than we're known as Big Brown Beaver, which is, very straightforward and quite catchy. This is certainly a different one. This is a pretty good album. Not one of my favorite albums by Primus, but I've always loved Southbound Pachyderm, and that's my number 10 for 1995. My number 9, this band was huge in 1995. And if you're willing to put a few mortgage payments aside, you can go see them in 2025. Talking about Oasis. This is from their second album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. I'm not going to go with one of the 3 big singles in the United States. However, I believe this song may have been a single in the United Kingdom. Song I'm going with is Some Might Say. This song is very joyous, very melodic, very catchy, wonderful chorus on here. This is just a great pop rock song to me. I think everything about this song really works. I can still listen to this and really get into it. And it's my favorite song off a wonderful album. I love this album. My favorite is definitely maybe their debut, but this is awfully close. This sold a lot bigger because of the hits that were here in the States, particularly Wonderwall. My number 9 is Some Might Say by Oasis. My number 8 is from this band's second album, and it's a self-titled album. This is Collective Soul. I'm not going to go with one of the big hits, although this song did get played a lot on your AOR stations. I'm going to go with Where the River Flows, which is probably the heavy song on the album, but yet it's really catchy. It's got an excellent chorus on here, very memorable riff. Not quite as, you can't really call it grunge. There's not enough distortion on it to call it that, but it's very, very catchy. It's a song I've always loved. It's a song they still do live. I mean, which is saying a lot considering how many popular singles they had here in the United States. But this is my number 8, Where the River Flows by Collective Soul. And number 7, this gunslinger of a guitar player. I believe was 18 years old when this album was released. At a time when we had this thing going on with these teenage blues guitar players. You probably know where I'm going. I'm going with Kenny Wayne Shepherd from his debut album, Ledbetter Heights. And I'm going to go with the song that was the first single released to radio, Deja Voodoo. This was the only album that Corey Sterling would sing on as the lead vocalist. Deja Voodoo's just a well-constructed song, a fantastic chorus on it. Great verses. Everything about it is awesome. It just takes you in. Kenny's guitar playing on here already mesmerizing. Very, very emotional, very, very fiery. This is a very strong album. And this is one of my favorite albums from 1995, too. Album didn't even hit the number 100 here in the United States, but I believe it had the legs on it. I mean, just had a lot of momentum. It was on the charts for a while. Eventually, it went platinum, which is an anomaly for a blues album here in the States. And his next album would go platinum as well, but that album had a legit hit single on it. But as it is, Deja Voodoo is a wonderful track. That is my number 7 from 1995. Now, this album I never bought until the pandemic, but I've loved this song from the get-go. This is probably the biggest song they had here in the United States. This is Hum from their album, You'd Prefer an Astronaut. Track I'm going with is Stars. Call this shoegaze music, very dreamy pop meeting these loud, distorted guitars. They got a wonderful sound to them. And this album is really, really strong too. Stars is still my favorite song after just getting this album in the last 5 years. But this is a song I've always dug. It's very, very different than what was getting played on the radio, even though we had some cool music getting played on album oriented rock and alternative rock back then. You didn't have too many bands that sounded like this. This band has a very distinctive sound. Song's very, very cool. Wonderful chorus on it. Excellent track. My number 6 is Stars by Hum. And number 5, this is another album that I knew of back in 1995. I loved the first single. Never bought the album until maybe the last year or so. This is a one and done. It's Mad Season from their album Above. And I'm going with this track, River of Deceit. This was a super group for the 90s. We got members of Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Screaming Trees on here. We got Lane Staley on vocals. Outside maybe one track on here, this album doesn't sound like any of those other bands. They have a very distinct sound. The River of Deceit is just a beautiful acoustic ballad. And it never gets loud. It never gets really dramatic. It just stays in its lane. I love Lane's vocal on here. I love those guitar lines. They're very, very memorable. Excellent melody on here. It's a very somber track. And I think it sounds just as fresh today in 2025. Song I've always loved. This is an album that's really grown on me since I picked it up more recently. This is by number 5, River of Deceit by Mad Season. My number 4 is band that critics certainly love them. They have a very dedicated following. Their first album, like a lot of people, I thought they'd be a one-hit wonder because I thought that hit single wasn't all that. But I'll tell you, I bought the Benz when it came out in 95, and this was a quantum leap forward. Now, I'm not going with the songs that hit radio. I'm going with a deep cut, which I think is so melodic and majestic, Black Star. I love the ringing guitar lines on here. I love Tom York's vocal on here. Just wonderful. Very, very memorable. Yet, like I say, majestic. That guitar line that carries the song, I think, is just excellent. And again, a lot of these songs I'm talking about, I think, sound just as strong as they did in 2025 as 1995. When I do these top 10s, I don't base it on how much I like them in 95. I do it on that year. I talk about how much I love them now. So there were other songs that I loved in 95 more than some of these. But these are the songs I love the most now from that year. Anyway, well, a little rant there. Black Star, I think, is a wonderful song from my favorite album by Radiohead. I have most of their albums. A lot of people would go with Kid A, OK Computer. I love those albums for different reasons, but this is the one that I like the most. And my favorite song off this album, excellent track. Black Star by Radiohead is my number 4. My number 3, now this album certainly got a lot of airplay back in the day on album-oriented rock, probably alternative rock too. And this band came out of passing of Kurt Cobain. This is Dave Grohl's thing, the Foo Fighters, their self-titled album. The song I'm going with is the second single and second track on the album, I'll Stick Around. Very, very catchy, rocks like hell. Similar to Nirvana's work in the fact that we got like a soft verse and a loud chorus, but here it's the vocals soft rather than the music. Very simple and effective chorus. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you anything. I love the bass line on here. I love that guitar line. That guitar line is a great hook on it. I really love the end of the track with the vocal bridge before it goes back into that main riff. I think it's excellent. Songs age very, very well. My number 3 is I'll Stick Around by the Foo Fighters. My number 2 is an artist I've always wanted to go see, and I finally saw her in 2024 with my sister Laurie and one of her lifelong friends, Nancy. Alanis Morissette really brought it that night up at Bethel Woods. And this was off of her third album. The first 2 were, I believe, only released in Canada, and that, they sold well, but totally different sound. This is where Alanis came into her own on Jagged Little Pill, an album that sold millions and millions of copies. It's a diamond album. The song I'm going with, is the first song I heard off this album, You Oughta Know. Now, on an album that's very reflective at times, this one just comes and just grabs you by the throat, both musically and lyrically. The bass line is wonderful on here. Alanis really found her sound on here. This is a very poignant lyric. You don't have to read between the lines. This is a song about getting burned. Universal feel. Being burned in a relationship, I should say. And this song, I think, resonates just as well in 2025 as it did in 1995. The chorus on here is wonderful to die for. Even the bridge on here, which is more atmosphere, but it still keeps you in, is very, very cool. Excellent album. Some of these other songs were the ones that were really, really big hits. They were more reflective, like Ironic and You Learn. A lot of great songs on here. But You Oughta Know is the one I heard first, and it's always resonated with me. It's my number 2 for 1995. You Oughta Know by Alanis Morissette. My number 1 is by an album that I love even more than Jagged Little Pill, and it didn't really sell, but he is one of my favorite singer-songwriters who we lost in 2005. This is Chris Whitley from his second U.S. release, Den of Ecstasy. And the song I'm going with is the driving quasi-title track called Din. Chris Whitley made some waves in his 1991 album, Living with the Law. He got some traction, got some radio play with Big Sky Country in the title track. On this album, changed his sound from a roots rock meets blues sound to Jimi Hendrix meets grunge. And I think this album kicks ass. The critics hated it. But there was a small, loyal following who always loved this album. This plays well as a piece. Din, the song itself, is a little different than everything else on the album. Most of the songs on this album are really They're very dramatic, less soft and loud. There's not too many driving songs on here. Oh My Heart Is Ready is a driving song. That was the video. This is similar, but this is more joyous. This sounds like a song that you play on the open road while you're driving. It's wonderful. I love the guitar work on here. That instrumental bridge is excellent. It is just joyous, beautiful, wonderful song. And it's less than 3 minutes. It comes in, kicks your ass, and gets out. It's my favorite track from my favorite album in 1995, I must say. An artist whose music I totally adore. This is my number one from 1995, Din by Chris Whitley. I will put a link in the description to my album review for Din of Ecstasy. I did a 15-week series on Chris Whitley's music, and it's right here on my channel, John the Music Nut. His music has stayed with me ever since I heard it in 1991. So let me just go through my top 10 once again, and then I will give you my 20 honorables. My number 10 is Southbound Pachyderm by Primus. My number 9 is Some Might Say by Oasis. My number 8 is Where the River Flows by Collective Soul. My number 7 is Deja Voodoo by Kenny Wayne Shepherd. My number 6 is Stars by Hum. My number 5 is River of Deceit by Mad Season. My number 4 is Black Star by Radiohead. My number 3 is I'll Stick Around by Foo Fighters. Number 2 is You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette. My number 1 is Din by Chris Whitley. Now, if you excuse me for a few seconds, we'll have a little glare here as I read my 20 honorables from 1995. I do have a few here I can give you. Album covers. This was close. Van Morrison from Days Like This. Opening track, Perfect Fit. From Jars of Clay, self-titled debut album. Track is called Flood. From the self-titled third album by 311, the opening track, first single, Down. Also, we have Counting Blue Cars by Dishwalla. When this song came out, this was played to death. And it drove me crazy, and I couldn't listen to it anymore. Now I listen to it, and I'm like, wow, what a fantastic song. Again, this is how the songs hit me in 2025. Cry Love by John Hyatt, the opening track on Walk On. Wonderful album. John Hyatt stuff from the 90s and 2000s is excellent. Nearly all John Hyatt's excellent. The opening track from the title track from Bruce Springsteen's The Ghost of Tom Joad. This was an album I really loved in 95. I don't listen to it much anymore, but I love when this is kind of like Nebraska from 82, only darker. Very, very cool album. I just did an album after show on Green Day a few months back. This is from Insomniac. This is the 1-2 punch. I consider it one song of Brain Stew, Jaded. This is to Green Day what We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions is to Queen, and Bringing On a Heartbreak and Switch 625R to Def Leppard. These two songs got to be played together. Elastica, I believe this was their only big hit in the United States. Connection, very, very catchy track. Awesome. Great chorus as well. Natalie Merchant from Tiger Lily. 3 big hits off this album. I'm going with Wonder. I think Wonder's a fantastic song. It's very, very reflective. I think it's aged very well. One of my favorite hard rock bands Band I talked about extensively on Tim Durling's channel, Tim's Vinyl Confessions, as well as his book on Y&T, Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. Y&T's Pretty Prison from the album Musically Incorrect. I love 90s Y&T. And this is when they got a little bit heavier. I think this song just kicks ass. Filter, one of their two huge songs. This was from the album Short Bus, I think it's called. Hey man, nice shot. Excellent track. Matthew Sweet, title track. I'm sorry, the album's called 100% Fun. Song I'm going with is Sick of Myself. I listen to this song. It sounds like the theme to a 90s sitcom. I love it. Tears for Fears from the album Raoul and the Kings of Spain. Falling Down. I think this song is excellent. I did an album ranking with Daniel on Bicycle Legs Talks Music where we ranked the Tears for Fears albums. I think I had this at like number 4, either 3 or 4, Raoul and the Kings of Spain. Excellent album, although it didn't really sell. Garbage from their self-titled debut. I'm going to go with Stupid Girl. And that rhythm may sound familiar if you're a Clash fan because that's Train in Vain, but nonetheless, I love the track. Goo Goo Dolls. This was a song that it got beat to death back in the day. The song's called Name. I listen to it now, though, and I really, really love it. I think that song has aged quite well. Smashing Pumpkins from Melancholy and Infinite Sadness, Tonight. A lot of an album I'm not into, but there's some songs that really stuck out and really stayed with me. And Tonight's one of them. Excellent track. Remember Civ? This was their one big single and video. Can't wait 1 minute more. I think the album's called Set Your Goals. Very, very cool. The opening track from Van Halen's Balance album, Seventh Seal. Always loved that track. I'm not high on that album, but Seventh Seal and Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, I've always loved. Better Than Ezra, but I'm not going to go with the big single Good. I'm going with a track called In the Blood, which I think is very melodic, very, very catchy, excellent chorus. Last but not least, Morphine. From the album, yes, I'm going with the opening track. Very catchy, Honey Whites. So, what are your favorite songs from 1995? Would any of these songs be among your favorites from that year? Are there other songs by these artists that you'd put in your top 10 from 1995? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.